Hello, good afternoon everyone, and welcome to our webinar, 5 Ways to Improve Service Delivery While Reducing Costs, a presentation by SunView Software for BrightTalk's Service Management Summit, and this is specifically for the Running IT as a Business track. So, to introduce us here, I'm Jaime Spector. I'm the Product Marketing Manager here at SunView Software. And today our main event speaker is Stephen Mann, the Principal Analyst and Content Director for ITSM.tools, a premier source for industry-related content, analysis, advisory, and consultancy for IT service management. Previously, you might have known Stephen as an expert and analyst for firms such as Ovum or Forrester, and he continues to be widely recognized as an industry thought leader for all things ITSM, service desk, IT asset management, and so on. So we're going to get into some housekeeping here. So this webinar will be available shortly after its conclusion. We encourage you to follow our channels on Twitter, Stephen Mann and SunView Software, and get more insights into ITSM, improving your IT service delivery. Also, feel free to share this webinar once it's concluded. And if you have any questions regarding anything that's covered during the course of this webinar, feel free to use BrightTalk's Ask a Question button at the top of your screen module to submit the question to our webinar panel. Also, towards the latter part of the presentation, there will be some survey questions that will become visible, and I encourage you to answer those as they become visible to you. So we're going to get into the agenda here. It's going to start off with Stephen Mann's presentation, 5 ways to improve service delivery while reducing costs. That's kind of why we're all here, right? And then afterwards, I will get to a key opportunity, just to briefly kind of cover some things regarding the Smart Service Desk. We'll cover that a little bit later. And to follow it up with 5 applications of the Smart Service Desk. And then finally, we'll conclude with about 5 minutes of Q&A. So one last slide before we kick it off here. I encourage you to kind of check out some of the supplementary material, especially an ebook that we have, 7 Reasons Why AI Will Change Everything on Your Service Desk. We'll get into that a little bit later towards the latter part of the presentation, but those are available to you in the supplementary material section of BrightTalk. So without further ado here, I'm going to throw it over to Stephen, and he's going to get started with his presentation. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Jamie. I have a lot to cover, so I'll press on. In terms of what I'll be covering today, I'll start with some scene setting. I always do it. This time it's about corporate IT and business value. Then I'll go through 5 things that will individually and collectively help to improve service delivery while also reducing costs, from automation through IT financial management, before I drop some key takeaways and we have the Q&A session. So I think it's important to start with value, and the great Oscar Wilde said something akin to, "The cynic knows the price of everything and the value of nothing," which I think is a great quote. Well, his quote's far better than my hash of it. But the question is, for me, does the average corporate IT organization even know what its discrete IT services cost, let alone the value that each service delivers to the business? So the Wilde quote raises a number of questions for IT organizations, in my opinion. Firstly, what does the money invested in IT each year deliver in terms of business value? And I did really use the word invested there, in that IT is like any other business investment. Second question is, which IT services deliver the most business value, and conversely, which deliver little or no value? And then thirdly, what's deemed to be valuable or of value from a business perspective? And how do we start to answer these questions is very much about what I'll be covering today. So in my experience, an oft-stated solution to questions around costs and value is to say, run your IT organization as a business. And it sounds sensible until you realize that IT run as a business might not be in the best interest of the parent business, the real business here, with decisions made suboptimally as the bigger picture of the parent business is forgotten. So in my opinion, it's best to use the term run IT like a business. It's a subtle difference, and some people would just say it's me playing with words, but hopefully you can appreciate why this is a better approach. So what does it mean? Well, for me, if an IT organization is to truly be run like a business, to create maximum business value for its parent organization, then it needs to focus on things beyond managing the corporate IT infrastructure and spending within the aggregated IT budget limits. So things such as understanding customer needs and wants, it sounds obvious, delivering high quality services, support and customer service, and knowing what individual IT services cost and what drives these costs, including the trade-off between cost and service levels. And then finally, effective financial stewardship to minimize costs while not adversely affecting service quality. It's what most businesses would want or strive for, but in terms of an internal IT organization, maximizing margins and profitability is most likely not applicable to such an internal service provider. So there's a lot involved here, and I'm deliberately focusing the webinar on the latter two bullets, as well as talking to the importance of business value. And I think there are 5 opportunities for corporate IT organizations to improve how they are run and the value that they ultimately provide to the business across exploiting automation, improving service desk performance whilst reducing costs, of course, and also better matching services and service levels to the needs and also the value framework or perceptions of the business or lines of business, then better IT asset management, and then finally, financial management that focuses on the right things that, if we think about the ITIL, IT Service Management Best Practice Framework, IT financial management or financial management for IT sits within that, but I bet a lot of organizations only do a small part of what the chapters around financial management best practice can offer to organizations. So these are 5 ways to improve service delivery whilst reducing costs, and hopefully it's going to match up to the title of the webinar. So let's start with exploiting automation. And you might be sitting there thinking that using automation for IT management and IT service management is nothing new, and you'd be right. You know, from running simple data center scripts or IT service management process automation in fit-for-purpose service desk or ITSM tools, to the orchestration of third-party systems, including cloud services, and now more recently the use of artificial intelligence or AI for doing what I would call the thinking heavy lifting rather than the manual heavy lifting, you know, especially for the machine learning use cases. And it doesn't matter to me whichever flavor of automation that you consider, it offers a number of benefits to IT service delivery and support. You know, for instance, increased speed of execution, whether it's undertaking the manual or thinking tasks. You know, machines can do things much faster than humans can. Plus, they don't need to stop to eat or sleep or to take vacations even, making automation not just the proverbial extra team member that we hear a lot about, but perhaps more an extra team in itself. Then there's the improved customer experience, in that we now live in an instant gratification society where the speed of issue resolution or service provision and the overall customer experience are important drivers as to how we feel about and ultimately use service providers. And then getting to the meat of the presentation, cost reductions too, that human labor still makes up a significant part of the total IT budget, and thus automation can be used to not only speed up execution and improve customer experience, but also to reduce the associated people costs. And while we're talking about people, we can't not talk about the need for human intervention, or the fact that, you know, when people such as myself get involved, we are prone to human error, or more specifically, the unwanted consequences of human error. And this might be business affecting service downtime or the effort required to rework things. And it's not just the costs, the financial costs, it's also the adverse effects such as adversely affecting customer satisfaction or retention, or in some instances, even adversely affecting brand reputation. And finally, increased task adaptability. And this is the fact that it's easier to change automation to reflect a new status quo. So much easier than trying to elicit people change. Now, whereas the former is a one-time thing that can be almost forgotten about once you flick the switch, whereas the latter requires continued investment and checking to ensure that new policies, procedures and practices are consistently being applied by people or human beings. So for me, there's some great benefits on offer from automation, and your organization is probably already benefiting from the aforementioned scripts or process automation and orchestration. But I'd like to ask the question now, are the opportunities for machine learning being considered, addressed, and potentially adopted? And again, there's a number of these, and I won't go through all of them. I'll just hop about a little. But for me, there's more efficient support to start up with. But speed is an important facet of modern day support and customer service, and we know this because customers tell us so. And machine learning can help us with this at a number of customer touch points, whether it be starting with an understanding of the end user issue through voice recognition capture, say, and the initial call direction. Or it can be used to identify and predict issues. What ITIL would call problems sometimes, if we're talking about common issues, or the sign of adverse things approaching, which could be related to the assessment of change risks. And importantly, to take humans out of the equation wherever possible. That sounds as though it's I'm saying humans are bad things. I'm not saying that at all, but I'm just trying to make life easier for people. The machines or the technology can also offer up the most likely resolution for identified issues, and possibly even schedule preventative maintenance as and when needed. Orchestration enhancement too. I've already spoken about things like cloud orchestration, but we can go further still, removing human intervention from the existing orchestration. For example, using the technology to make informed decisions, or to do transactional data analysis, or identifying potential improvements based on historical performance. We can also use it to manage our IT ops or IT service management activities in predicting future demand for services or future required levels of IT support personnel to maintain or even to improve service levels. We possibly could use it to predict future levels of customer satisfaction based on support trends or even proposed changes. And then finally, automated continuous service improvement. As the machines or the machine learning learns, it can apply what it learns to improve the task it's been assigned to undertake. So, as I've already mentioned, it's so much easier to change the technology than it is to change human beings that were previously fulfilling the role. So, I suppose the main point here is that more and more businesses are investing in machine learning, not just the pure play automation. And thus, for IT to be run like a business, it's a valuable next step in the utilization and exploitation of automation. Next is improving service desk performance while reducing costs. And hopefully you'll agree with me that the corporate IT service desk has already been through nearly 2 decades of cost reductions, continued cost reductions, from outsourcing to cutting back on highly technical staff in favor of quotation marks script readers. It sounds detrimental. I don't mean it to be, but we've sort of simplified the needs for people who provide IT support in particular, at least on a level 1 basis. And service desks continue to face the pressures of having to do the proverbial more with less, or to deliver more with less. Some of you might feel as though there's little more that can be done to reduce service desk costs, but I still think that there are still ways in which to improve the quality of service and support, especially in light of consumerization, while improving efficiency and reducing costs too. And in terms of the opportunities, you might know some of these, you might know all of these already, but I think it's good not to look at them in a piecemeal way, to look at them as a bundle of things to do, or even a jigsaw that can do more in terms of the sum of the parts in its whole. Automation, we've already spoken about, the marrying of people and machines to save time and costs while delivering a better customer experience to employees. You might be sitting there thinking, well, technology costs money, but for me, the opportunity cost of not using technology is probably greater, with potentially well-paid people conducting simple manual tasks and taking longer than automation, a poor use of their time, and ultimately the IT organization's labor budget. Self-service and self-help, again, it's nothing new. But I think it's important that while many people talk of self-service alone, it's also good to talk about self-help, as it's where much of the early end-user adoption and savings can come from. And then self-service that gives end users access to new services or the ability to log the need for IT assistance themselves. The real financial benefits here are ultimately coming from the self-service back-end automation rather than the initial self-service portal touch point. I think I've been saying this for years, that self-service has to be so much more than an Amazon.com-like shopping basket. If all we're doing is replacing a telephone call or an email with that, then we're missing a big opportunity to speed things up and also to save money. Again, live chat and remote support is nothing new. But I think the important thing here is to, along with self-service to be fair, is to think about your use of remote support in particular, and whether it was brought in to save money or to improve service, in that the latter can drive the former, but the former tends to only lead to failure. That if we try to do these things to save costs, then we probably end up with solutions that don't fit with employees' consumer world expectations of support and customer service, and they don't use it. And hence, we're investing in technology, people, process, and we're probably not going to get the expected return on investment that we wanted. And knowledge management is still a great one for me. That I can go back to the turn of the millennium and running an IT management technology project, which was probably half of the issue. And it can be hard to do, but if we can get it right, the benefits here are twofold. Firstly, in supporting the aforementioned self-help capabilities via the self-service portal and also intelligent responders to end-user emails. And secondly, in supporting service desk agents and other IT staff, stopping them having to reinvent the wheel or to try multiple things before they actually fluke upon the right solution. And then IT asset management that I'll talk about in more detail shortly. That for me, IT asset management can still be seen or viewed as the corporate IT poor relation compared to IT service management, but it can play an important role in many IT service management activities, and in the process of doing so, save time and costs and ultimately improve the quality of service. And I'll come back to this shortly. So bringing it back to the idea of running IT like a business, few businesses would survive without having costs and margins under control. And those corporate IT organizations and their service desks in particular need to keep finding ways such as these to reduce costs while not adversely affect the quality of service. And sometimes I'd like to think that it could actually improve the quality of service. And it's a good point when I'm talking about the quality of service to getting to the point talking about the link between service levels and costs, that I think few would argue against the fact that the higher the service level is, the higher the cost, and thus if your IT organization is over-delivering on customer wants and needs, then and possibly the customer, the line of business, is likely to be overpaying for IT services, which doesn't stack nicely with that cost versus value equation. And whether you wish to call this IT wastage or a value misunderstanding, it doesn't matter. The important thing is to understand that the IT organization has at some point made a decision, maybe even in conjunction with the customer, to deliver a level of service that no longer meets the customer's needs and also their value perceptions or value framework. And of course, the opposite could be true as well, that we could be under-delivering on service and expectations. But I think the first thing to look at is where we are over-delivering, because it is that IT wastage. So it could just be that the tip of the iceberg, though, really, that if when matching service quality to costs, two awkward questions could be considered. The first is your IT organization providing and paying for low-value services, or even paying for services that don't offer any value at all? And that's business value, not IT value. And secondly, would customers be upset if they knew how much certain, quotation marks, low-value services cost the business or their line of business budgets? So that, in effect, the corporate IT organization might be doing what it thinks is right rather than what is actually right for internal customers and the business as a whole. And for me, thankfully in many ways, there are two existing IT service management capabilities that can be employed to help here in terms of better matching services and service levels to needs and value. The first is business relationship management, often called BRM, and the second is service portfolio management. And again, it's nothing new. The role of business relationship manager, or the concept of business relationship management, was introduced even in ITIL v3, which was June 2007, so nearly 10 years ago, with a role tasked with acting as a conduit between IT and other lines of business to do things like better understand different lines of businesses and their needs, to assist in the prioritization of IT-related projects and investments, and also to direct IT strategy in support of line of business and business strategy. And the role is intended to work at different levels within the business too, from strategic planning down to day-to-day operations, to ensure that the right IT services are delivered at the right price to meet these customer needs. And importantly, there's far more to business relationship management than regular service level management conversations and activities with customers around IT service demands and budgets and IT service delivery issues. That I like the way that the BRM Institute offers up 4 core BRM disciplines that I've listed on my slide here. There's the demand shaping, which is the stimulation, the surfaces and shapes business demand for provider services, so the corporate IT organization services, and it's very much focused on optimizing the business value realized through those services. And then there's exploring, which is the identification and rationalization of demand that helps sense business and technology trends to facilitate both the discovery of needs and the demand identification. And then servicing, which is the coordination of resources, probably as you'd expect, which manages the business partner expectations and integrates activities in accordance with the business partner-provider partnership. If you're wondering why these are a little bit wordy, I'm sort of paraphrasing what it says on the Business Relationship Management Institute website. And then finally, value realization, which ensures success of business change initiatives that result from the exploring and servicing engagements. That value realization includes activities to track and review performance and to identify ways to increase the business value. So there's a lot of help out there, whether it be the BRM Institute or vendors that might already have worked with customers to help from a BRM perspective. But then the second area, service portfolio management, in my way, it's not as mature as it could be. It was also introduced as an ITIL v3 discipline, but it struggled with widespread adoption. And I think it's in part due to a lack of technology to support it, and also the fact that it's an odd beast in that it can be viewed or understood in 2 disparate ways. Firstly, the more traditional view, and this is what you get from ITIL, if you read it at face value, as the portfolio of services that need to be managed. So the sum of the service pipeline, the service catalog of live services, and also retired services. But having had a background in portfolio management per se, I see this second alternative view of the portfolio management of services, and that in a similar way to which large companies use project portfolio management, PPM tools and techniques for their projects and programs, so 30%-ish of their IT spend, that this could also be applied to the 70% of keeping the lights on activities. And in a way, the latter definition is how savvy ITSM professionals can start to use PPM tools and techniques to manage services better, along with improving the control over and reducing the costs, and also helping to demonstrate the value that IT services and IT as a whole deliver to the business, because PPM tools and techniques are very much about mapping or matching the resources consumed to the perceived benefits or the perceived value that is realized from the investment. And it also helps with governance dictated visibility, and also at a lower level, or even at a higher level, improved decision-making and demand management capabilities. So for me, both business relationship management and service portfolio management should be seen as key elements in quotation marks, running IT like a business. You know, it allows IT to better understand customer needs and wants, to assess how services support and customer service are meeting expectations, and also to know how costs compare to business value, including that important trade-off between costs and service levels. I said I'd come back to it, and now we're there. You know, better IT asset management is the fourth of the 5 areas. And as I've already mentioned, or at least alluded to, the art or science of IT asset management is not as popular as it should be, that most IT organizations probably do some form of IT asset management, but too few do enough. And as to why they don't, the answer is more likely to be because they don't have to than because it's too hard. That, in my opinion, rightly or wrongly, ITSM has a higher adoption rate than IT asset management because of 2 key reasons. Firstly, that most companies need a help desk, service desk, or IT support personnel. You know, it's a must-have, so therefore ITSM adoption can piggyback on this unavoidable need. And then secondly, IT service management has benefited from the ITIL, IT Service Management Best Practice Framework, and its adoption, including within ITSM.tools. A lot of them over the last 15 years or so have become ITIL aligned and ITIL verified tools. Whereas IT asset management, on the other hand, has various bodies of best practice, good best practice out there, but nothing that has been as dominant as ITIL has been for IT service management. You know, it's a shame, and neither of those 2 reasons are an excuse not to invest. And again, I use that word deliberately, in IT asset management, because IT asset management done well will more than pay for itself with the benefits, a little bit like automation in many ways, being reduced costs. You know, having more information related to IT assets allows organizations to make more informed purchasing and investment decisions. And this isn't just for replacement or conversely sweating assets, i.e. holding on to them longer, but also project decisions related to adding assets to the IT estate. And then, and then improved operational efficiency, because IT asset management isn't just about saving money, it's also about doing things better. And asset data is a valuable input to other IT service management processes, such as incident problem change and capacity management in particular, allowing for swifter fixes and better decisions. And then, you know, it's not just about saving money. I'm also talking about providing better services or a better customer experience, and knowing what IT assets are in use, where, by whom, and for what purpose, not only improves operational efficiency across other ITSM processes, the better insight into IT assets supports actions that ultimately improve IT services and how customers and end users feel about the IT organizations, its services, and its overall business worth or value. Improve governance, risk mitigation, and compliance too. You know, whether it's, you know, internal, external governance needs, risk management activities, or the need to be compliant with contractual or regulatory and requirements. IT asset management helps across all these. You know, in particular, software licenses and ensuring that software installations tally with licenses and usage rights. And then finally, I'm not a great fan of this line, but I still feel I need to use it. Better alignment with business needs, because obviously IT is part of the business, and to talk about IT and business alignment can make you feel as though IT is separate from the business, but it's the phrase people use, and hence it's easier to use it than go around the houses trying to do something else. But understanding existing IT asset investments and the remaining economical life of those assets or asset groups, you know, allows organizations to better recognize whether new investment decisions are optimally aligned with line of business or the overall business needs. And it's not only relevant to IT managers. IT asset management will also help colleagues in other lines of business, such as finance, procurement, security, facilities, and there's probably many more. So as the fourth point, for me, the introduction of formalized IT asset management capabilities will make a big difference, make a big impact on IT costs, ensuring that new money is only spent when needed and that greater business value is squeezed from existing asset investments. But it will also help with that service and customer experience side of the house too. And then finally, as I try to stick to time, the Final area is financial management that focuses on the right things. And this is where, if I haven't lost people, I tend to lose people. People tend not to like to hear me talk about financial management, in that it's a best practice that has been around for a long time, both inside and outside of ITIL. But as with IT asset management, it's often an ITSM discipline where just enough is done, and normally across the two areas of budgeting and accounting, where IT organizations need to request and justify future spend and then account for what they've already spent. But for me, what we currently do, or what the average IT organization does, a gross generalization there, isn't enough for IT to be run like a business, because a business won't survive without knowing what individual products and services cost to make and deliver, what the cost drivers are for those products and services, and how individual margins contribute to overall profitability, or in the case of an internal IT organization, optimizing the costs that are incurred. And sadly for me, in my experience, many IT organizations still don't have clarity over the IT services they offer, due to a lack of, whether it be service catalog management or service portfolio management activity. Now, how the services are formed, again, due to a lack of configuration management and IT asset management insight, and what it costs to provide the individual services versus the value the business reaps from them. So, there's a lot of things there that go together with IT financial management that make it hard for the average IT organization to really understand where they are from a services, a costs, and ultimately a value perspective. And they might not have an idea of what their most valuable services are. And for me, there's therefore the danger that decisions to kill or cut back services, normally with that corporately mandated budget squeeze, they're going to be based on things like usage and cost, i.e. how many people are using them or how much the service costs to run, if we know that, rather than the value that the business gets or reaps from those services, and also whether the cost of providing each service outweighs the business's or line of business's perceived value obtained from them, or whether the money could be saved by reducing service levels, or if service levels enhancements that are wanted are actually worth the affected costs. When you consider the 5 nines and how much it costs to just keep uplifting service levels, the cost goes up by an order of magnitude. And then finally, how to improve upon existing services to deliver even more business value to lines of business and the parent organizations as a whole. And so there's still so much more that should be done or can be done. We're not doing it despite the promised benefits of lower costs and better business value. But here are 5 things that I think are a good start or a platform to begin with, that you do need to build a platform for better financial management. It can be done or improved in isolation, but in my experience, improving financial management along with other ITSM capabilities makes it even better. For instance, and I've already touched on this, getting a better understanding of the services delivered and how they're made up, and whether it's service catalog, service portfolio management, IT asset management, or configuration management, without the additional insight of these capabilities, and it's difficult to look at costs and the value that the costs bring through incurring them. It's hard to understand that at a more granular level, at a service level. And getting access to a financially minded person is a great place to start, because I think most of us would agree that the average or stereotypical IT professional isn't always interested in financial matters, and even if they were, they would struggle with what I would call the science of finance. So it's important to find someone that can do what you need to be done with the numbers. You could be lucky, you might have an existing IT team member. I was lucky and had that when I had a proper job, who happens to be, someone who's financially minded. Alternatively, seek help from the finance team. And really, getting that person or even people is the start of being able to get under the skin of what IT costs, to understand why things cost what they do and how these costs can be managed and ultimately changed. Part of it, or an extension of this, is then to build an IT cost model using service costing, i.e. the allocation and apportionment of IT costs across different IT services based on known cost drivers. And it's only by doing this that we get to that level of granularity of cost understanding that we can start to understand more about value, that we need to understand costs before we can compare them to the perceptions around business value that we create in incurring those costs. And in doing this, for me, there'll be cost-saving quick wins. There's a better understanding of costs will identify money spent where no value is being created to start off with, and we can just kill stuff, but kill stuff in an informed manner. And then finally, I think I mentioned it already, it allows us to make better business decisions, not just better IT decisions. That we're arming ourselves as the IT organization to understand what individual services cost to allow us to deliver better options relative to the status quo, which could be, as I've already said, increasing or reducing service levels, or outsourcing relatively expensive but not business critical services, or changing fund models when we're investing in new assets, or swapping on-premise delivered IT services for infrastructure platform or software as a service alternatives. We ultimately start to position IT services in terms of business value, such that we're no longer seen as a cost center or the black hole or money pit that a cost center gives the impression of. That we get to a point of hopefully being a value center and the positive attributes that this can bring. So, for instance, if we can show the value generated by the investment in IT, come those annual corporately mandated budget cuts, surely we'd want to spend more on IT because we've got that positive return on investment, rather less on IT. So just to finish off the main content, the financial stewardship, it has to be a must-do for modern IT, and to not improve in this area just creates more work for cash-strapped and under-pressure IT teams. And I'm not going to talk through my last slide because unfortunately I've ad-libbed a little bit too much and said far too much in terms of time, and I've squeezed Jaime, unfortunately, into a smaller piece of the ultimate webinar. So the key takeaway is ultimately what I've just been talking about, just each of those 5 things. And you can download a copy of the slides, or I can send you a copy of the slides if you want to read more into that. So that's me done, and back to you, Jaime, and apologies for going on too long.
Hey, thank you very much, Stephen. Totally okay. All that stuff was excellent. So, all right. So now, before we get to questions here, I wanted to kind of take some time to briefly cover a key opportunity here, which we have highlighted that sort of jumps on Stephen's points about exploiting automation with something like we like to describe as the smart service desk. Now, I'm sure you're used to products and services describing themselves as quote smart, but we've decided to pull our own definition for what we think that label means when applied specifically to the service desk. And that's that in order to meet the needs of today's new digital workplace, there's a requirement for the IT team to be both knowledge-driven and proactive when solving problems. Also, the IT organization as a whole must be more strategic in its approach, applying processes and ideas to their operations that are forward-looking, innovative, and engaging for all users involved. So a smart service desk meets these criteria and provides the tools and automation needed to stay ahead of the demands of the modern enterprise. So we're already seeing a shift in the industry toward new innovations and technologies to support these things. So, for example, Gartner has recently predicted that by 2019, IT service desks utilizing machine learning enhanced technologies will free up to 30% of support capacity. So that's just one example of how that's improving the performance and the speed of your IT service delivery, giving you more time and efficiency to get things done here. So I wanted to quickly go over some 5 applications, specifics of how we are, sort of outlining how the service desk is getting smarter through some of those automations that Stephen, touched on earlier in his presentation. So number 1 is speed up tech onboarding. So, a big pain point for any help desk team is that onboarding and training of new support staff technicians. A smart service desk solution can leverage onboard assistance and guided automation to help new hires learn on the job. So, for example, a technician might begin filling out an incident ticket for, let's say, a network issue. Now, at the moment that the technician begins typing in the ticket summary field, you could have an intelligent automation that kicks in real time that sort of helps to guide that person into which department that network issue should be routed to, because it could be very specific guidelines that go and best practices that go along with that, and it sort of helps move things in the right direction. So that's a very small thing, but very helpful to help new users get started contributing to the overall operations of your IT support staff, and they can start being meaningful immediately with less oversight. So number 2, we're moving over to maintaining consistency. So like Stephen talked about earlier, it's about reducing that human error. That automation is a really good driver at helping to support. So delivering high-quality services and support is a critical component of improving the overall performance of your IT service delivery. And smart automation and things like machine learning can help to speed up onboarding, but it can also assist your more seasoned support technicians in improving their overall ticket fulfillment and automating some of those more mundane field completion tasks that you might overlook or make a mistake. And it kind of uses your contextual text and some of your menu options to help kind of guide you along and give management a little bit more confidence knowing that their tickets are being submitted correctly the first time, every time, saving your organization both time and headaches down the road. And then third point is reducing resolution times. So obviously this is a no-brainer. This is something we're always trying to accomplish. So we all know a good IT support technician working tickets can only be as effective as his or her tools and process workflows. A smart service desk takes a more proactive approach to speed up resolution times by contextually reading ticket data as it's being fulfilled out and automatically serving up real-time resolution suggestions for the staff user. So that means they can get help from the knowledge base immediately, like as they're filling in something, or it can help to pull up previous resolutions based on the ticket data or your historical ticket data that maybe have solved a similar issue in the past. So these are just automations that can kick in to sort of help guide things along, get things done quicker, help you make better decisions. Moving into number 4 here, gaining more customer insights. So we know that your IT team is busy. It's important that your service desk staff plan and prioritize their day to keep up with their assigned workloads. At the same time, providing great customer service to prioritizing based on customer service doesn't always align with those needs. Sometimes something you have to do in a given day might not fall in line with helping a customer who may be agitated or needs to get things done quickly. So aligning all those things is very important. And automation and smart automation can give staff users variables to sort of gauge customer sentiment trend data, and estimated effort. So you have all those different metrics to sort of help you guide along your priorities and plan accordingly. And all of those KPIs can be viewed directly from your ticket grid, for instance. So that's just another good example of how automation can give you better insights into what your customer's thinking, so you can help make the most out of your day and increase overall customer satisfaction. So this last thing here is engaging end users. So you can see the little robot we have here that's representative of chatbot technology. And chatbots are a great way for your self-service to sort of get engagement and buy-in from your customers. A big pain point is, oh, this customer, the self-service portal, it's hard to navigate. It's hard to sort of find things that I need from the knowledge base. So having sort of a automated system to engage with that end user in a more natural way, where they can interact and find things from the knowledge base without having to navigate a bunch of complicated menus. It takes resources away from your tier 1 support staff, so they can spend time dealing with more complex issues and more strategy related items. And customers love it. They love when they can solve their own problems and find things immediately, and it's just a easier and more natural way to interact with self-service, and automation is a driver of that. So of course all of these things are things that we've been thinking about and looking at over the past couple of years, and with our latest release of Change Year 7, we've sort of developed it into what we call Service Smart Technology. And this is a big new innovative engine that sort of lies beneath our latest release. So just to quickly touch on these things, Service Smart Technology provides real-time automation for ITSM operations powered by artificial intelligence. So like Stephen was talking about, sort of that machine learning guided automation, giving you powerful innovations, machine learning, big data, recommendation engines, chatbots, and more. It also gives augmented assistance for your IT staff for better decision making. So like we touched on earlier, sort of those contextual insights and recommendation engines. And it also helps to reduce Tier 1 workload, automate mundane processes, and improve customer satisfaction. And real quick before we get to Q&A, I'm going to turn on this question and give you guys a little bit of time doing there. And I know we're coming up to time here, so we might have to take questions post conference here.
Yeah, what I suggest, Jamie, is that there's some great questions in here that you write some answers in blog format that can either be on the SunView blog or the ITSM.tools blog, and hopefully the technology will alert us to who created the question, and we can make sure the people who asked the question actually see the answer.
Yeah. Also, these slides will become available very shortly up on our SunView SlideShare channel, and as well as you'll be able to rewatch the presentation as soon as it's concluded right through the BrightTalk, your BrightTalk channel here. So really quick, we have, here's our emails. So if you want to follow up with any additional questions or get more details about anything that was discussed today, you can email Stephen Mann, Stephen@ITSM.tools, or myself, Jaime Spector at SunViewSoftware.com. So unfortunately, we don't have any time for live Q&A. So just like Stephen said, go ahead and submit them to one of our emails if you have an additional question, and I will try to answer those on a future blog post like Stephen mentioned. All right. And we thank you for watching this webinar, and have a great rest of your day, everyone.
Cheers. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Stephen.